Okay, Evan, you were in Minneapolis on Friday morning. I assume dozing away, perhaps, when around 8:57 in the morning, Brett McMurphy puts out a tweet regarding the fact that Nebraska is trying to get out of its big game of the century game with Oklahoma. You were covering baseball up there, so you didn't look at it. You were looking at it probably as a an onlooker, the way most Husker fans would. What was your immediate reaction when you saw that, and what were you thinking as the day progressed?
Yeah, I was actually driving there when the news broke, and I mean, to be honest, my first reaction was, I mean, what? You got to be kidding me! Like that just seemed so far out of the blue on a random weekday in March that's what we're talking about. Like, and then I think from there I started thinking, well, okay, where would that information have come from? Certainly not Nebraska. Maybe Oklahoma, if they knew about it. And although it seems like that's less and less likely now as we've gone on and things have come out, probably more likely it was from some of the other schools that had been contacted by Nebraska. And then, I just start thinking like, who at Nebraska would look into that? It felt out of character from what I know about Bill Moose as someone who's been very in touch with the fan base with stuff like the importance of playing Iowa on Black Friday or wanting to play old Big 8, Big 12 rivals in future non-conference seasons. So I felt like he was pretty in tune with it. It didn't feel like something that Scott Frost would have pursued vigorously. But then, the mind starts to wander and you think, well, it has to be financial. That has to be the reason. But then I countered that with myself and thought, well, but Nebraska has a bigger reserve fund than almost any other major athletic department out there. So everybody's hurting. It wasn't a good look. It felt like, I was thinking back in the last couple of months and how quiet Nebraska football has been and thought like that was just perfect for what they needed. They needed to just get their work in the weight room. They needed to keep a low profile, especially after all the news of 2020 and their part in it. And then this thing just pops out of nowhere. And it's just like, man, this program just cannot get out of its own way sometimes. And to have things come out like it did, I think in hindsight was probably a blessing because the public backlash was such that they decided to move forward with it now. They recommitted to it, as we've said. But man, it just felt like another example of where the program just couldn't get out of its own way. And here we are talking about the Huskers ducking, their major longtime rival in March. It was a bizarre little bit of time. How about you? You were at the state tournament, were you not?
Yeah. Yep, I was. I was at the state tournament. I sat in a room for many hours working on this story versus sitting out and enjoying the state tournament. I did get to enjoy the two Friday night games, which were spectacular. I think my reaction was, well, I'd heard rumblings of it, but nothing that I would have ever thought was going to get done. I just, honestly, you hear a lot of things, and that wasn't one that I really believed. I think there's it just seemed unlikely. And some of the things you hear obviously aren't true. They're just,
Sure,
they're not true. Guys transferring, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. I made some calls and it just, nobody had heard anything. So to see that on Friday, I was like, oh, okay. It really took me by surprise. I was surprised by it, I would say. And, yeah, I was surprised it took 6 hours to respond. In talking to Bill Moose yesterday, I think, we talked at length. It's not everything is quoted in the story, but we talked at length about what went into that decision-making process. He reiterated his love for rivalries and for traditional games. And he also reiterated the financial situation that Nebraska faces and also the financial situation of the community. And then I think there is this sense of wanting to get off to a good start and not having that Oklahoma game turn into a sort of a torpedo effect So as the schedule stands right now, they play Illinois, they play Buffalo. They're going to be favored in both those games. Then they play Oklahoma. They're not going to be favored in that game. Then they go to Michigan State. They might be favored in that game. And then they play Northwestern, and that'll probably be a pick 'em as well. Now, if I'm just looking at it, I actually think they can go 4-1 in those games. I don't really think that it's not, they can do that. They can play those 4 games independently of what they do at Oklahoma, and they can play well. And I think they can win those 4 games, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a sense, and this is why they're trying to explore, maybe trying to move that November 13th game at Southeast Louisiana or against Southeast Louisiana up to September 4th, whether it's them or it's somebody else. I think they want to try to create, Illinois home game, then go to Oklahoma, create some momentum, some positive vibes. They really haven't had that since Frost got there. So the best chance they had at it was Colorado. And of course, Colorado made that second half comeback, and that was pretty devastating. But, I think some of what's going on within the program is just maybe a little overfunctioning, concerned about the economy, concerned about the budget, concerned about momentum. I think maybe just focusing on the practices and the playing of the football games and doing your best there and letting the chips fall where it may, that might be their best plan for this year. I do think there's 6, 7, 8 wins on the schedule. I don't think that the expectations around here right now are outlandish, especially given the schedule. I think most people think they're going to be a pretty good team, but not maybe a great team, and people aren't expecting anything. They're not expecting 10 wins, not with that schedule. I think there's some of that sentiment in there. Moose did tell me Frost was aware of the conversations. He was in the conversation. So we'll have to ask Frost when we have an opportunity to talk to him, just what his thoughts were on it and why they ultimately decided to recommit to the game. It's worth noting that when Scott was there, they destroyed Oklahoma. They just destroyed them. I think one of the games was 69-7. I think the 96 game had been 73-21. Frost's memories of that game is, what can happen when one team is, hitting on all cylinders and another is not. But I don't think that's going to happen in Nebraska when they go down to Oklahoma. I don't anticipate that happening. I think Nebraska can, stand toe to toe with them. I don't know if they can do that, but I don't think it's going to be, a humiliation. Yeah. I just don't anticipate that. So, those are some of my general thoughts about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I felt like the whole notion of moving up that game into September, into filling that first bye week, it just felt like, to me, it struck me as they were overthinking it. Like, let's get that extra home game so we can get another recruiting weekend, so we can get some momentum, so we can help the local economy. That's a noble idea, but like, I agree. Like, it just felt like this was a time especially after last year and all the efforts to change things around last year. And some of them worked and some of them didn't for Nebraska, but it just felt like this was a time to just go with what you had. The Ireland trip didn't work out. Play Illinois, get your bye week. You're still essentially going to have that bye week against Southeastern Louisiana late before big games against Wisconsin and Iowa. That's your SEC style bye.
Right.
And so to worry about the recruiting stuff and early momentum, I don't know. I felt like it was unnecessary and just overthinking. It's the best way I can put it. Like, just go out there, play the schedule that you have. You have plenty of opportunities to build momentum. If you perform well early on, you're generating that stuff on your own. You can still bring in recruits on that bye week. You're going to have opportunities in October for some really big time atmospheres if you're doing well. So, but here we are, and it's March, and we're talking about scheduling maneuvers and all this. Yep. So here we go.
It's a tough one. If they play the September 4th game and they're able to move some chess pieces around and put that September 4th game in, let me say this. I think they can handle that, and I think it would be not the worst thing to play two, smaller opponents between Illinois and Oklahoma. If they can manage to do it, I think it's okay. That means that they'll have a bye week November 13th before they play Wisconsin and Iowa. I'm sure they can appreciate that week. The Southeastern Louisiana game is, like you said, kind of like a bye week, but it's not the worst thing. Like if that's what they do, then I think fans are going to be like, okay, that sounds okay to us. Yeah, it works. Good. Super. As it stands, the Oklahoma thing was just a completely different beast, though. So